What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined with my co-hosts, Will Cohen and Colin Alcabes. Today, we are angry. The New York Rangers are terrible, just to say it outright. We keep losing games. We have a terrible record against teams that currently hold the playoff spot. We barely are squeaking out wins. We have went on a 5-game losing streak, barely beat the Montreal Canadiens, and then we go and get clapped again by the Devils last night. So I'm upset. I'm ready to fully reevaluate this team. I know it's early, but at this point, the trade rumors are already going around, and I'm losing hope. I'm pretty much hopeless at this point. So I'm ready to blow it up, start it all over again. And today's episode is probably going to be rant filled. I know we usually keep it family friendly. We'll try to do that still, but if we let our emotions get the better of us, I'm sorry if there's any foul language involved, but I'm upset. I know these two are as well. So let's just get right on into it. Please make sure you guys like and subscribe, ring that bell to miss notification, all that good stuff that I say every episode. I don't even care right now. So, boys, how we feeling?
Angry.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
Yeah. Angry.
You expect more from this team. You see how they start the season with an absolute walloping of the Penguins, a questionable loss in a high-scoring game to the Utah Hockey Club, and then just drubbings of the Red Wings back-to-back, beating a good Maple Leafs team, demolishing the Canadiens. You know, they had a lot of good games early on. I can't say that I've been pleased with their play since the beginning of November. So it's been a full month of just some miserable hockey. They managed to squeak out a couple wins here and there, barely sneaking by the Sharks, barely sneaking by the Canucks, barely sneaking by the Kraken. I mean, you just mentioned the Canadiens. Like, they're playing very, very similar hockey to what feels like an Islanders fan would watch, where it's just miserable, not good. Don't enjoy watching it. It's all around miserable. It's been a long time since I felt like this. I feel like this is the worst stretch of Rangers hockey we've seen in the past couple of years, considering last year they only lost 3 games in a row one time. Ugly stuff. And nobody's really looked good outside of one man and one man alone. Actually, I'll say 2. But one is Will Cooley, and the other is Capo Caco. Those are if I had to pick 2 guys who've actually looked pretty solid through all this, and I will say Braden Schneider as well.
There's Jonathan Quick in there too.
Quick as well. Quick has also looked good in the couple starts he's had. But for nightly guys, those 3 are the only people that I think have looked solid night in, night out. Everybody else has had really bad games, has been hurt, have just been like straight up bad from the get-go. Some were rushed back from injury, Lindgren, and didn't need to be here and has been terrible ever since. If only somebody would have said, hey, don't resign this bum. But that is neither here nor there. I don't know. There's a whole lot I could go on forever about, so I'll let Will go because I've already hogged up 2 minutes.
Nah, you were taking the words right out of my mouth. I feel like on a nightly basis that everyone besides a few guys look disinterested in playing hockey. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, my computer froze, so I thought I was frozen.
Here we go.
No, it's not my Wi-Fi this time. It's like my actual computer's frozen right now. Like on a nightly basis, they seem disinterested. Their defense has crumbled apart. The offense has crumbled from the beginning of the year. Top line guys aren't getting going. I mean, it's just everything is going wrong for the Rangers right now. They're getting not that I want to put the blame on Igor Shesterkin, but I don't think he's playing his best hockey right now, and I think that has to do a lot with the defensive core. It just seems like there's no accountability when guys are having terrible games. There's no promotions for guys that are actually doing well. Besides Will Cooley, I mean, he got a promotion a few days ago. But obviously, Chris Drury came out and said, or it was leaked that Chris Drury said that Trouba, Kreider, Lindgren were on the market. Hopefully, I think it was in hopes to light a fire under some of the players' asses. It did not. They are 1-4 since then. They went on a 5-game losing streak, and right now they honestly very well could be on a 7-game losing streak had they not squeaked out a win against the Canadiens, in which they looked horrible in my opinion, besides like the first half of the first period. It's just a bad brand of hockey. I don't know where they go from here. you really can't make trades right now because I don't think most teams will make any this early in the season. And if the Rangers continue to play like this, they're going to be out in a playoff spot very soon. So I don't know where they go from this. I don't know what happens. It's just a bad brand of hockey that's very frustrating to watch.
When the Rangers beat the Montreal Canadiens the other night, that felt like we just won the Super Bowl. It was like after 5 straight losses, finally going out and getting a win. In the moment, I was like, we're so back. But then, the more I thought about it, I'm like, how pathetic is this?
Dude, I said right away in our chat, I said, this is sad.
And like, how sad and how pathetic that the team that won the President's Trophy last year and was within 2 games of making it to the Stanley Cup Finals, less than a year later, with the same roster, is celebrating a win that hard over the Montreal Canadiens, who are like close to the bottom in the league. And the only reason we won that game is because of the heroics of Capo Caco. I've always been a Caco supporter, and I will never change my views on that. I actually predicted that goal. Colin, you weren't able to be there, but when I was up in New York, we were hanging out with some of our buddies, and we were on the power play, and I said, I wish Caco would score here, but unfortunately he doesn't get much power play time. And then he went and scored on the power play. So that's going to be the only positivity that I bring to the episode right there. It's just pathetic. It's really, really sad. Mika Zibanejad is booty cheeks. Ryan Lindgren, booty cheeks. Trouba has been mid, not as bad as last year, but still not good. Keandre Miller is just straight garbage. And, as much as I love him, what has Alexei Lafreniere done in the last 7 games? What has he done? Nothing. He's been invisible. And, we just extended him. And he took that paycheck and was like, all right, I'm just going to go sit down now and I'll wait 7 years until I need to get paid again. Kreider has been good. He's scoring goals, but he still has no assists. And, Panarin doesn't play defense. I think my biggest complaint is Mika Zibanejad. It blows my mind how a guy that was in contention to be the captain of the team and makes $8.5 million a year is showing as little effort as he is. I look back to that game against, I think it was the Flyers, possibly, when Panarin got ganged up on by 6 skaters, or maybe it was Detroit. I can't recall what team.
No, it was against the Flyers.
Yeah, Flyers. Panarin was getting swarmed by opposing players. Nobody on the ice does a goddamn thing to step in there and do anything for him. Then later in that game, there's a big brawl going on. People are pushing and shoving each other. Mika Zibanejad just cruising on by.
That was against the Blues.
The Blues.
Mm-hmm.
There's been just so many incidents that they're all blending together at this point because this stretch of terrible hockey has extended this long that it's making me confused and I can't even think straight. I'm just having flashes of just terrible Zibanejad, terrible Zibanejad, terrible Zibanejad. And it's all culminating into just one rage-fueled rant that I'm going on right now because the man does not care at all. He's he doesn't want to be here. He's made that very clear. But unfortunately, he doesn't want to be here enough to get traded because his contract is so large and that no trade clause is so massive that he's the most unmovable player on the team, if not one of the most unmovable players in the entire NHL. So we're stuck here with a first-line center that is straight garbage, and we can't do anything about it. And that has forced our hand to put other players on the trade block like Chris Kreider, who is not the problem. And it just blows my mind. I think the simplest solution is to just sell this entire team and start reevaluating what we're doing, starting with the defense. Ryan Lindgren, get out of here. Keandre Miller, get out of here. I would like to move Trouba just to save the cap, but chances are that's not going to happen. The only defenseman that I'm satisfied with right now is Zach Jones and Braden Schneider. Even Fox has been underwhelming. But, we had a little bit of a talk before we started recording. Not really much Fox can do because his defensive partners are garbage and they keep changing every day. So I'm underwhelmed by Fox, but I'm not ready to trade him just yet because, he's a superstar. But dear God, Lindgren, Miller, Trouba, get off my team. just get off my team and let us fix the defense, please. Please, please, please.
I'll say Lindgren and Miller specifically are playing with zero physicality in front of the net. They just look lost. They're not winning their tackles at all. There's been a couple plays in a row. There was one last night where Trouba was just floating on a penalty kill, covering absolutely nobody. He wasn't covering the shot, nor the pass, nor the guy in front. He was just there. I was one of the Jack Hughes goals, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. I stopped watching and just watched the highlights because I couldn't put myself through any more of it. But they just look bad. And at some point, too, this does have to fall on Laviolette. As much as we've loved it and as much as Tony would hate to hear that, it feels like he's lost the room. There's no energy, there's no accountability.
Can I just chime in really quick while you're on Laviolette, and I'll pass it back? I've noticed the last 3 straight losses that we've had, Peter Laviolette has had the exact same quote. He says, "We need more. We need to be better." Okay, yeah, we get that, Peter. So do something about it. Don't just say we need to be better. Make us better.
Like,
I'm sorry, I cut Colin off. Let Colin finish, please.
It's just even the players, like you said it before, there's zero accountability. Everybody's just looking around like who's gonna step up and do something. But like since this slump has started, the Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere line kind of disappeared for a little bit. Trocheck went like 7 games without a point. Lafreniere is struggling, and Panarin has been chipping in here and there when he can. But like getting a goal in a 5-1 game, or it doesn't really matter when he chips in. And unfortunately, it's too late. He scored like 2 goals in one of the games where it was over. It was the Edmonton game, and it's like just there's no urgency. We talked about it all last year how they started games with no urgency, and then they'd pick it up as the game went on. The second and the third were good, but we were being nitpicky. Now they don't even pick it up. They don't start at all. It's like they think the game is tomorrow night. Literally, they're gliding around out there. They're not picking up their guys. They're not covering the points. They're not winning the battles in front. They're getting outshot consistently. And as much as I like to think like, oh, this should help with the Shesterkin contract or whatever, like greedy me, he needs to be better. You can't command 12 mil and not be elite. I think he's playing some of the worst hockey that we've seen in his career, and I don't attribute that all to him, all right? So I want to make that very clear. I think that there's been some really bad defense, and the way that I've talked about it with my friends is he's making the above and beyond saves, but he's letting in the dribblers. He's letting in the routine saves. So he's going out of his way to make these spectacular saves from time to time and absolutely bail out the defense, but then he lets in a shot that he should have 9 out of 10 times. And it's like, I'd rather him flip it, save the easy ones, and let the bad ones in, so that way we can point the fingers at the defense. That way it doesn't fall on you. But when you let in an easy one, it's hard for me to justify giving you 12 minutes when you let in an absolute muffin. I'd rather you let in a really bad one, so that way maybe it opens the eyes of the upper management, of the coaching staff and whatnot, that whatever the defense is doing, it's not working. It's not. None of the pairs that Laviolette has tried have worked thus far this year. Kendrick Miller is playing like a forward again, which he hasn't done since college, or since before college. Trouba is Trouba. He just kind of floats around, does whatever the hell he wants to make it in there. And Lindgren, when he's not hurt, apparently there's nothing going on upstairs because he's got no idea what he's doing. The only good thing he had was that he was the stay-at-home guy on the other half of the Fox line, and he could win the net front battles. And he's not doing that. He's just not. He's not being physical anymore because he'll probably break another bone. Like, get him off the team. He's just injury prone. He's scared. He's scared to play hockey. Miller's forgotten how sport works, and as I said before, and I'll say it again, Trouba has not been good since he got to the team, and at best he's been mediocre, but you don't pay mediocre $8 million. So the D-core needs to be completely reworked, and I don't know how the hell Drury's going to do that with like negative cap space, how he's these guys.
And you know what Drury did? When Drury put that big for sale sign out on this team and said that like nobody's safe and put all these stars on the trade market, he tried to scare them and make them try harder.
It didn't work.
And all it did was backfire, dude. Before yesterday's game,
Drury, I think that the players, instead of being miffed about it, as the report said, don't get angry at Drury. Get angry at each other that you're not.
Yeah. Play better.
Oh, no, you're right. That's what should have happened.
You want your boys
but they held a players only meeting that Kreider and Trouba ran, and all they did was just sit there and talk about how pissed off they were that they're all in the trade market. And like, that's not how life works, dude. It's a job. If I mess up at my job and my boss is pissed at me, I don't just sit there and be like, oh, whatever. I'm not going to do it anymore then. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do my work and get the job done and like try harder and recognize my mistakes and work on it. Like these players are such babies.
I just don't understand. I look at this team, right? And I look at what they did last year and I'm looking at them now and I don't understand how they got as far as they did. Yeah. I know a lot of it was out the back of Shesterkin, but they all look just lost. Every single player looks lost. And right now I would be
for Kako.
Except for a few that I've mentioned before. I just don't get it. Like I feel like I'm watching a completely new franchise with completely new players because not one of them resembles what they were last year. Even Will Cooley doesn't resemble what he was last year. Even the players who are playing well weren't playing like this last year. It's like everyone's a complete reversal of what they were. You know, Capo and Cooley was good for what he was. Now Caco's really good and he's a center now somehow, winning draws. Something he's never done before, making himself even more versatile and more of a player that I want to keep around. And Cooley's leading the team at 5-on-5 points and in points per 60. I think he's second in the league behind only Ovechkin, or at least he was at the time of the Flyers game. They threw that stat up. And now, like, Kreider's only scoring goals. Mika is AWOL. Lafreniere really hasn't done anything since the contract extension. And I get it. Like, he's young. He's going to go through times. Like, not everybody's popping off all the time. So he needs to bounce back. I'm not really going to hold that second line too accountable for all of this because I don't think it's their fault. I think that they did a lot of time. Like the reason we were successful in the beginning is because they were doing it all. Them and the third line were getting it done, and now it's just the third line. But I think they'll bounce back. It's just the stars need to be stars. It's what it always boils down to. We talked about it. I feel like we're watching a rerun of the playoffs every night last year. I feel like we're watching 6 of the Stanley Cup Conference Finals every night, where nobody shows up. It's like nobody wants to play. Nobody wants to be there. They're just punching in, getting their hours, and getting the hell off the ice. And I just don't understand what it's going to take or who's going to have to be moved before this team wakes up and realizes, wow, he's not just talking the talk. He's walking the walk. Nobody's safe. Because I think everybody's like, oh, they're not going to move anybody. I make too much money. You can't move me. No, they'll find a way. Somebody will take your dumpster baby ass. They just got to attach a bunch of picks to you, which I'll gladly do. Get off my team if you're not going to play.
We don't have any picks, though.
Yeah, we don't have picks to move.
We have firsts. We don't have thirds or fourths.
We need our first. We need to go through the Rangers need to go through a retool. That's what it is. I mean, from the beginning, it feels like the core is very soft. They don't handle accountability well. They've never played well at 5v5. Like they've always been good on the power play, but when it comes to 5v5, they got boat raced yesterday, I think, by the Devils. They were skating circles around them. They just looked better in every single facet of hockey against the Rangers. Like it's just they're playing bad hockey and there's no accountability. Like I've seen people say bench Mika Zibanejad. Yeah, you know what? Bench him until he waives his no movement clause and then trade him. Like have some accountability for these players. Like I know that they're, do you really want to bench Mika Zibanejad? I mean, I know he's your 1C. Yeah, you do. You bench him. Just get him off the ice. Make him get pissed off. And when he comes back, maybe he's like, all right, you know what? Laviolette's not fucking around anymore. He's gonna bench us when we're not playing well. Hold them accountable. Like these stars are soft. Like it just seems like the core is way too soft. And anytime that they have to be held accountable for anything. I mean, there was a point in this season. I can't remember when it was. Maybe it was against the Oilers. It was a game they lost. No one that wore a letter came out to talk to the media. It was Lafreniere and Cooley.
That happened again recently. I think it was against the Flyers. Think about everyone that wears the letters: Trouba, Panarin,
Fox,
Trocheck,
and no, Trocheck doesn't wear a letter actually.
He doesn't.
No,
I thought he did too. Actually, I thought he did too. But Strome before him wore a letter. It's Trouba, Panarin, Zibanejad, Fox, and Kreider.
Okay. After that loss against the Flyers, there was only one person that wore a letter that came out to talk to the media. Guess who?
Trocheck.
Panarin.
Wait, fuck. Sorry. We
Panarin.
just said Trocheck didn't have one.
The man who doesn't speak English was the only one that took accountability to go speak to the media. Trouba, the captain, needs to be out there every single game and at least half of the alternate captains need to be there. Mika Zibanejad had a terrible game, and he said, I don't care. I'm just going to sit in the locker room and just wait until next game to do the same thing.
He was probably too busy putting his hair up in a ponytail. He needs to shave his head. Yeah, no, I think it's also tough when, like, people are like, trade Trouba, and they're like, oh, no, he's the captain. Like, I've tried to be like, oh, they're not going to trade their captain. Why do they name him captain? Oh, he's probably got some leadership roles. He does a lot in the locker room that we don't see. He threw his helmet once, but other than that, what has he done? Like,
he tried to get in a fight.
Tried, yeah. Keyword.
And he got whooped.
Yeah, like, it's just there's no leaders. There's no leaders in the locker room. And Will's kind of right that we need a retool, but how are you going to do a retool when all of the old guys who aren't doing anything are still signed through like 2030? Like, I mean, I know Panarin's deal comes off the books, but he's probably one of the only old heads that I'd want to keep around. Trocheck is signed for life. Mika's signed for life. He's muted, by the way. I don't know if he knows that.
Yeah, Will, you're muted.
Still muted. He's doing great. But yeah, like, all the guys who are signed for a while are the guys who I'd like to move off the team. And you're going to have to attach picks or just continue to sit and wait. You can't really retool with a roster built the way it is because they locked up a lot of their guys long-term with the hopes that the deals would benefit them then. And they bite the bullet down the road. I know this Trocheck deal is still going to be really good because he's still playing at a high level, in my opinion. But as it gets later on, that was the fear that he will start to fall off. But I'm looking at the full roster here, and the only guys that I'd love to keep around, Lafreniere, Kakko, Cooley, Hedl, Fox, Schneider. Love me some Jimmy VC. Zach Jones. Maybe Edstrom.
I noticed you didn't say Shesterkin.
He's being greedy, and I'm still angry at him. I can learn to.
You know what?
Picks it up.
There's a reason why I had our lovely editor, Danny, put Shesterkin on the graphics. Before this season started, I said if worst comes to worst and Shesterkin's being greedy and we can't really afford him, just trade his ass at the deadline and just get something in return. Will, your mic, it's really low. You need to fix it. But now everyone called me crazy. Everyone said there's no way. All of a sudden today, there's quotes coming out from Arthur Staple of The Athletic. Does Shesterkin even want to be here anymore? Why would he? Why would Shesterkin want to play for this bum franchise that's never going to win him a Stanley Cup? And partially it's his fault too, because he's the one that's asking for like an eighth of the salary cap or something crazy like that. So, you know what? At this point, if March rolls around and the Rangers are playing at this level, screw that. Trade Shesterkin for whatever you can get. I don't want to pay him that money. And if we're bad, just take what we can get for him. I don't care if it's draft picks and we enter a full rebuild. I don't care if we get like insane superstar like Shesterkin for McDavid or something crazy, because everyone knows the Oilers need goaltending. Anything that'll make this franchise better. Because at this point, I am so upset with the Rangers. I've been with this team for over a decade now. And I've been through a full rebuild, and back when we had like the most no-name players playing on our first line back in like 2021, and I've never been this upset with the franchise. We won the President's Trophy last year. Last year was the dream team. We talked about how everything was falling into place for us to win a Stanley Cup. And less than a year later, I'm now talking about blowing it all up, selling the team, trading Shesterkin, and restarting. There's no other team in the entirety of sports that I think is that pathetic. Not even just the NHL, not even just the NFL, NBA, MLB, any sport you can think of. I don't even competitive bowling, badminton. No one is as pathetic as the New York Rangers.
Yeah, I'm reading a tweet.
Except for maybe my fantasy football team. That might be worse.
I'm reading a tweet here that sums it up pretty perfectly. It says, some of these guys need to learn that we're in the business of winning, not letting them skate around with their buddies for fun. And I think
exactly.
Yeah. It's just they're soft. I think the core was flawed from the beginning. I think that I could even go back to 2019 and talk about this, really. I think this core was so flawed from the beginning, and now it's catching up to them, and this is who they are. they've showed us that this is who they are. Like, I don't know if it should come. I mean, yeah, it comes to a shock because they won the President's Trophy last year and they were 2 games away from a Stanley Cup appearance. But I think this is who they are. They've never been good at 5v5. They've really only had 1 or 2 defensemen that can break the puck out of the zone. They have no guys they have no one that holds them accountable. They don't hold themselves accountable, seems like to me. It seems like they don't care. They're just going out there and playing. It's like everything from the top down of the Rangers organization right now. It just seems like it's a little flawed. I don't know. That might just be a bit of an overreaction, but I don't know.
No, it's not. It's not an overreaction, dude. Like you could sit here and say that. I mean, I just sat here and I said that we're the most pathetic organization in all of sports. And I don't even think that's an overreaction. I might have been a little dramatic about it, possibly a bit of an overreaction, but I'm done, dude. I'm done with this team.
It's just hard to root for a bunch of players who don't even look like they're rooting for themselves. Like, they all just seem so done with everything. I know we've said it a million times. It's just they seem like they don't want to be there. And it's like, what is it going to take to reignite the fire under this team and get everybody going again? Because for going on a month now, they've been on vacation. And, for a team who got as close as they did, you think they'd be hungry to get back there. They got some new guys to help them out with their deficiencies and things like that. And it's just, there's just nothing going for them right now. And it's alarming. It's alarming. It's concerning. There's just no words. And I don't know. I'm worried.
Well, actually, we just talked about 27 minutes worth of words.
I'm just worried that, like, I don't know. I just can't see them blowing it up. I can't. But
they won't because they won't.
They can. They
But
can't trade Sanchez. He has a no movement clause, a full no movement clause for the rest of his contract. It's fully buyout proof. They cannot trade him. Like, there's literally no way to trade him unless they bench him or something, and they force him to play his hand and waive his no movement clause. They could trade Trouba. Obviously, they tried to trade him. They could trade him. They can get rid of Lindgren. Kreider, he scored 30 plus goals in the last 3 years. Some Stanley Cup contender is going to want him, I think. I mean, I know he has a partial no movement clause, so it's going to be hard. They'll have to waive his whatever, but some Stanley Cup contending team come deadline, if the Rangers are still playing this bad, they're going to want him. Panarin, I guess you don't really have to move him. He's not really a problem, but
don't touch my bread.
If you want to get, of course he's my favorite player too, but if you want to get his, some of his salary off the books, I guess you trade him at the deadline, but I really don't see them doing that. And then Trocheck.
If you're moving people like this, salary isn't what you're going for anymore. If you're moving Kreider and Panarin, guys who are consistent performers in both the regular season and in the playoffs, you're moving guys like that, you're not looking for cap space and things like that. You're looking to completely rebuild.
And I really don't think – if they're going to do anything, I think they're going to retool. But it's going to be hard. Like, if you're going to retool, honestly, can you really give Igor Shesterkin $12 million? Probably not. And if he's not much lower than 12 or 10 – which I think right now he's playing like a goalie that should be given 8 by 8. There's no reason to re-sign him. Trade him come deadline time. If this is still going on, this just seems like a team that is not like. I know it's December. It just seems like a team that's not going to make the playoffs. Like, they are going to be a lottery team.
Dude, when we offered Shesterkin that 8 by 11, and I was so upset that he declined it, I'm looking back on that and I'm like, thank God, bro. Because if we signed him to $11 million and he's playing like this, that might have been the end. That might have been the day I deleted the channel. I always threaten it.
There's Peter Mrazek playing for the Blackhawks has the same save percentage and one less win, in the same number of games. Oh no, in the same number of games played. Peter Mrazek isn't making $12 million.
What does he make? Like 3?
Not that much.
Maybe even 1 or 2.
I couldn't even tell.
It's just this is a this is
0.25 or 4.25.
Out how to clone 11 other Will Coolies and go from there.
It just makes no sense. But then I look at like Vasilevsky. He has a 907 with 10 wins. But I'm not out here to compare goalies because I'd like to compare him to Hellebuck, who's got 15 wins in 19 games and a 928. That guy should be making 12 mil.
And he's making 8.
Yeah, Jake Ottinger, 13 wins in 17 games played with a 915. He's making like 8.5. Like it makes no sense. Even the guy, like the contracts when you pay boys big time, it just
it never works out well. It never works out well paying your goalies a lot of money, and then your cap strapped again for the future. They need to tear it all down. Trade everyone not named Will Cooley. Make him captain. There you go. That's
I need to change the subject for a moment.
Fireside Coolies. Anyway, go on.
Yes. And change the name to the New York Coolies.
I opened up Twitter just to see if there's anything going on in the Rangers world at the time of the recording. And Statboy Steven, big Rangers fan, posted something about Chris Kreider. Now I want you to take a guess. Don't look it up. If you had to guess how many 5v5 points Chris Kreider is on pace for this season.
7. I saw that post. He's on pace for 7. It would be the worst since Grant Fuhr. I think it was 1984-85. He was a goalie.
All right, Will. I mean, if you've already seen it, why wouldn't you at least let Colin guess?
I'm sorry, Colin.
I was gonna guess like 5. So
that's insane. And then I also have another thing I see here. I don't have a source here. It's a screenshot of an article posted by ADM Beaumont. But it's a quote from Kreider. I don't know what article this comes from. I'm going to be very transparent about that, so I'm sorry.
It was from Larry Brooks, if I think I know which one you're talking about.
It says the one with a bunch of F-bombs.
Yep.
Okay, so it's from Larry Brooks. He's New York Post, right?
Yes, that's his. He had a heart-to-heart.
I always give credit when I can. So Kreider said, "Obviously, we're going through more than I think I've ever experienced. I know I keep beating this drum, but we need to effing work through it and come out better on the other side, or else. But or else is not an option. We have one effing option. The only option is for us to effing continue to work, continue to effing pick each other up better. There were better moments tonight, but we still lose the game effing 5-1. But he didn't just say effing. You know, he said the full thing." Wow, that's insane. Kreider, dude, he popped off.
Yeah.
He's angry. At least Kreider's showing heart. You know, he's talking and he's getting angry.
Show it on the ice, though.
Jacob Trouba doesn't show it on the ice, and he's probably just sitting in the locker room after that game, just like bumming it. Just probably like
moping.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's brutal, man. New York sports are down bad right now.
We got
the
Giants.
10 years.
The Giants can't seem to figure out how to even look competent in football games. The Jets are the same way. They went all in this year and it just completely fell apart. The Rangers are bad. The Islanders are bad. I don't know about the Knicks. I don't really watch basketball. Neither do the Nets. I don't know about them. I'm assuming they're bad. New York sports are down bad.
Well, let me cut you off there. I know on November 30th, the New York Red Bulls won the MLS Conference Finals. So
got a way to wrap.
If you're a soccer fan.
Oh, and I guess the Liberty won. They won the final in the WNBA this year. So there's two positives, I guess.
Yeah, we got a couple, but not the ones that we like to talk about.
I see a post on Twitter that said these two had a plan and Dolan stepped in it and ruined it. And it's Gordon and John Davidson.
Here's a tweet from Brooksy. He said on the Up in the Blue Seas pod, I think Trouba brought the summer into training camp. There are other issues, of course, but I think that's the core of it. Over these next 3 days, I think Chris Drury needs to do a lot of work.
He better. I know there was a quote from Vince Mercogliano, beat reporter for the Rangers, for those that don't know, earlier this morning. He said, "From what I've been hearing from sources, a trade is going to be very difficult to pull off at this stage. right? Because we're a quarter of the way through the season. What team that has good players is going to want to trade them away right now? It's not the deadline. The deadline is still 4 months from now.
Because nobody knows, I mean, for sure, or a lot of teams don't know for sure that they're sellers yet. I mean, you look at the Predators last year. They were so far out of the playoff spot, and they went on a 17-game point streak. You look at the Blues, who at the All-Star break or was it the deadline? They looked like they weren't even going to make the playoffs. They went on to win the whole dang thing. So there's no way of knowing right now. It's too early to see who the sellers are. And, I mean, the Rangers could very well turn it around, but I just am not seeing it right now. Like, the vision is not there for that. Just
There's no vision.
Yeah, the lack of care from everybody right now.
Yeah, I mean, last season we went through a bit of a rough patch around this time of year. I remember December was not a good month heading into the All-Star break in January.
It didn't look this bad though.
Yeah, it was not this bad. Like last year I saw the vision. This year I do not see the vision. And last year was also carried by the fact that after the All-Star break, Igor Shesterkin turned up and looked like he was a brick wall in the net. I don't see that happening this year. I think this team is going to continue to decline over the next couple of months. We're going to fall out of a playoff spot, which we are barely hanging on to by, let's look at the standings here. 1 point. We are in a playoff spot by 1 point. And no team, like we're not gonna be traded. We might be the sellers. We might end up being the sellers this year. That's not my prediction, but it's definitely a possibility.
Well, that's why I've decided to start Fireside Vegas. You can follow me over here.
I'll start that.
Well, I thought we had a verbal agreement that Fireside Wild was in production or Fireside Hockey Club.
No, I mean I'll be a Rangers fan till the day I die, but
I know we're just kidding. We have to specify that because people sometimes don't understand the jokes.
With the way that we're playing, I'll be a fan till the day that I die, but it might be a lot sooner because they're making me fucking crazy.
All right, yeah. So the last thing that I just want to say before we wrap up, I want to just finish off that Shesterkin discussion because I might be a radicalist. I might be a little insane saying that like I'm all in, just trade him at the deadline, get what you can before we have a $13 million goaltender playing for a mediocre team that'll never win a cup. Call me crazy, but I'd rather trade him and get something in return than have a good goalie and nothing else. But I just share your thoughts, and then I want to end this thing. There's too much negativity being spread around.
Squilliam, would you like to take this one first?
I hate this team. No, I really don't. I'll let you do it.
I don't know. Originally, I had said no, but the more they play like this, the harder it is to justify paying the man. And if you wanted to do a retool and get some picks to help ship off some of these terrible contracts, aka Trouba, and maybe, I mean, you can let Lindgren go in the offseason. You can let Miller go in the offseason. So there's 2/3 of the problem on defense. Mika's not going anywhere. So I don't even think if he attached a bunch of picks, he would go anywhere he could because of that terrible, no movement clause, no trade clause, no buyout, whatever the hell it is. He's not going anywhere. And that's really the only other big piece that I would want moved. Depends on the return. I'll say what I say with every trade. I'm listening to everybody all the time about everything. And if I hear a good enough return or I think it warrants trading a player of his caliber, then maybe I do it. You sink another team with his contract and they don't win anything and you watch from afar. But then, if you go and you see him win, that sucks. And goaltending is one of the hardest things to find in this sport. I mean, we've been very lucky. People call us the Packers of hockey because we've went from one good goalie to another, similar to what they've done with quarterbacks. And I've watched, to bring it back to football, I've watched the Jets never have a quarterback, but I've always seen the Rangers have a goalie. I can't imagine what life would be like with a middling goalie because they don't know how to play defense ever. Going back to when Hank was in that, they didn't even know how to play defense. So it's like, if you can't build a decor, you're going to ship off the last of Benny Allaire's prodigies, and then what? You no longer have the goalie coach to do it. You don't have the ability to build a decor. So what do you do? I'll end on one thing that Will said earlier, and they should fire Phil Housley. I think that was a brilliant point that he brought up. I think you should consider changing the coaching staff as a whole. If Mike Sullivan gets fired, you better jump on that because he's
It's already confirmed that the Rangers are interested if he gets fired.
one of the best head coaches in hockey on a team that's going nowhere fast. I was at a point where I was willing to do it for Jim Montgomery just because he's a phenomenal coach, and we missed the opportunity, and the Blues took advantage of it. I think if the Bruins are willing to pull the trigger that early on a season with a worse team and a better coach, why wouldn't we do the same?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. This is the since Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Final, this is the worst I felt about this team. Like it just feels like a low point. And now I'm thinking about Phil Housley. I think our defense wasn't great last year either. Maybe he's the problem with our decor. Is it Phil Housley? Who knows? I don't know. It's also the players, obviously. It's not just the coaching. But yeah, the Bruins have like you said, Colin, the Bruins have a significantly worse roster. And they pulled the plug on Jim Montgomery this early in the season. Maybe do the same. I don't think this is all on Laviolette, but the players look dead. It looks like he's lost the locker room. Like when they're on the ice, it looks like they're uninterested. They lose every single board battle. They don't dig for pucks. It just looks like they don't really care. They're uninterested in playing hockey right now. So even though it's not all on Laviolette, maybe you have to fire him in order to spark someone. And I know everyone's, the coaching bump only lasts for so long, but they look uninterested. And if you're not going to trade anyone, then you're going to have to look for the head coach. And this is just super frustrating.
Here's the last thing that I'm going to say before we wrap it up. I've seen the rumors about the coaching. This core has gone through 3 coaches. We had David Quinn, we had Gerard Gallant, and now we have Peter Laviolette. And the core has, for the most part, remained intact for all 3 coaches. Firing Peter Laviolette is not going to do a thing. Maybe Mike Sullivan is an improvement. Yes, there is no denying that. But if this core has not been able to get anything done through 3 coaches, then maybe it's time for us to admit that the coach is not the problem.
It's the core.
It's the core. And yes, you both make very good points that maybe firing Laviolette and bringing in Sullivan or anything might be an eye-opening thing. But it should have been the eye-opening thing when Gallant got fired after a terrible playoff run. And then Laviolette came in and fixed up the franchise, or so we thought. I don't think this is a coaching problem. This comes down to the players, their motivation, and how much they care about winning a hockey game and being a New York Ranger. Because the way that I look at it, there's not a single player on this roster that wants to be here, besides maybe Will Cooley.
I would say Will Cooley.
The only reason why I suggest the coaching is because you look at a guy like Torts, and I'm not saying I want Torts in the office, but you look at a guy like Torts, he's not afraid to go and bench Sean Couturier and scratch him and put him up in the box. Laviolette has way too much loyalty to his veterans, and it's like he's scared to sit them. And sometimes if you look at players in the past, look at Couturier now. He's playing well again. If you look at what Booch did when he was starting, and David Quinn, the only good thing he did for the Rangers was unlock Buchnevich, constantly putting him up in the press box and making him watch. And now look at Buchnevich. He's turned into a really good player. He's a guy that we wish we didn't move. I know that's for damn sure. And he's playing well for the Blues season in, season out. So sometimes you got to be afraid. You can't be afraid to make the moves and risk ruining the relationship. Put a guy in the press box and make him watch for a couple games, and then maybe that'll light a fire under his ass. These players need to realize that they're not invincible. But the coaches, unfortunately, are a lot easier to change than these players are, because these players are handed no-move contracts and all this bullshit, and coaches are a lot more easily replaceable. And you can get a guy who can maybe light a fire under them, because it seems like, and we said it a bunch of times this episode, it doesn't seem like Laviolette has any kind of grasp on this locker room, and is giving very Gallant-esque answers, where he just keeps saying the same thing, but then nothing changes. Nothing changes at all. He has way too much loyalty to the lines, and it's not working. He needs to mix it all up entirely and figure out something else that works, or players need to start, heads got to start rolling.
I agree with that. I do think that a lot of this falls on the core, but like you said, Colin, You look at Laviolette's press conferences; it's the same thing, and nothing changes. So if you're not gonna be able to move the players, you gotta fire the head coach. Simple as that. And I don't think it's all on Laviolette, but
I also don't want to make that clear.
if that's how it is, and players aren't going to get moved, you're going to have to light a fire under their ass somehow. Maybe get a new coach, or Chris Drury has to tell Peter Laviolette, you need to start benching people and holding them accountable, and that will start lighting a fire under their ass. I have no clue. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not a coach. I'm not a GM, so I don't know.
It's ridiculous. This entire situation is ridiculous. It comes down to the players. It comes down to the coaching. It comes down to management. And honestly, at this point, like the ownership too, James Dolan, he doesn't care. He doesn't care enough to make a drastic change to the people that are running this organization. The only way he's going to care is if fans stop showing up to the stadium.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't let us trade our first overall pick last year because he wanted us to have a pick in his bubble in Vegas.
Yeah, and that defenseman that I'm blanking on his name now.
EJ Emery.
EJ Emery, yeah.
Which I'm not mad about that pick. But
no, good pick. But we could have had
Jake Gensel.
Yeah. Someone who's already developed and could help us in what was supposed to be a cup window which has somehow, in some way, closed rather quickly. So, dude, I'm just like, if I am Chris Drury, here's what I am doing. When is our next game?
Friday.
Today is Tuesday, the 3rd. We play. Oh, we're off for a while. Friday, the 6th. At 7:30 against the Penguins, the 10, 12, and 4 Penguins. If we lose to them, I'm making trades right away. I'm spending my weekend. I'm getting rid of Lindgren. I'm getting rid of Miller. I'm not getting rid of Igor yet. That's not till March.
He's got expiration date.
Yeah, I'm rebuilding that defensive core. I'm benching Mika Zibanejad until he waives that no trade clause, and then I'm moving him. Kreider, Panarin, Lafreniere, you're fine. Even Riley Smith, get benched again. You already got benched once. Sit back down. Don't get back up. Stay down. Third line's fine. Hedl, Cooley, Kako, you have my heart.
Yeah, I love the bottom 6. I think the bottom 6 is playing.
Yeah, we don't got to touch the bottom 6.
All right, you know what? Strip Trouba of his captaincy right now. Make Adam Edstrom captain. I said it. I'll say it.
No. I know you're joking, but in all seriousness,
I'm not joking.
Strip Trouba of the captaincy, no joke, and give it to
Cooley.
Kreider. Give it to Cooley in the future. Kreider is too young. Not Kreider. Cooley is too young at the moment. Right now, give it to Kreider. Let him retire as the captain. And then when the next generation is ready for their next captain, we'll give it to either Cooley or Lafreniere, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Or Rempe.
But I know, Colin, you have to go rather quickly. So we're just going to wrap it up in the last minute here. Colin, just final thing we're going to say. We said it before the season started, our confidence levels in the team, all of ours were rather high. I think I don't have them on hand. I think they were in like the 8s or 9s. Right now, my confidence in this team is at a steaming 3.
I'll give it a 4-2. I think there's still a lot of time, and I every time we talk smack about players, they turn it around. We just talk smack about the whole dang team. So hopefully our jinx continues to work here, and they prove us all wrong. I'm more than happy to go hand out apologies. I got the template for the apology form ready. Will sent it to me a million times. I'm more than happy to. But players got to earn them. They're earned, not given. All right. So they need to wake up. They need to wake up.
Wake up.
I would say I'm at a 4.9, teetering on
too high.
No, teetering on a 5. I think I need to see this. If it bleeds into all of December, my confidence level is going to be at a negative 200 billion.
Wow.
And when I tell you like negative 200 billion, that means I want there to be not a single
Did we lose him?
Wait, my mic unplugged.
Yeah,
I don't want.
cut
Listen,
out.
my mic unplugged. I don't like when I tell you like it's at a negative $2 billion. I don't want a single player from this year's roster on the team again. I'm talking about everyone. You need to find 12 new forwards, 6 new defensemen, and 2 new goalies.
That's crazy, Will. All right, look, I know Colin's got to go. He's got a hockey game, and it's getting kind of late. So
yeah, I need to study.
This was a lengthy episode, man, and it was good. I feel like we were able to vent, really get the frustrations out. And I'm not going to do the whole outro. The only thing I'm going to say is that to the fans that might still be here this late into the episode, one, thank you for staying around for 50 minutes of Fireside Rangers tonight. But also, I want to make sure that your voices are heard too. I know there's a lot of frustrations going around, so please blow up those comment sections. I'm not doing the rest of the outro. I don't care.
Follow us on our socials if you've enjoyed. Like, subscribe, leave those comments down below. I've listened to it a couple times. I think I hit some of it.
Yeah, I saw something along the lines. I was doing it more like not just because I didn't want to, because I'm lazy. It was more of just like this team doesn't deserve fans at this point anymore. Like
engagement. I like listening to what people have to say and responding. One of my favorite things to do is talk to you guys.
Well, that's what I said. I said the only part I was going to say was blow up the comment section.
But follow the socials. I like to talk to them on Instagram too.
That's true. That is true. All right, we got a lot of open forums that you're allowed to talk in. But this outro ended up being longer than the original one. God damn it. But okay, whatever. We're not saying let's go Rangers. We're not saying it.
No.
No,
what?
we're not in it or
no saying that. No saying that.
We're not saying it.
Dang.
No.
Just to everyone watching, thank you and
good night.
Have a good night.